covering sports for 30 years. It's one thing for an exhibition here, there, whatever, but you can't continue to be allowed to build a career without getting into the ring with fighters. And if I remember correctly, correct me if I'm wrong, Shannon.
But does ultimately boxing get damaged?
Well, I think so. But I think boxing damages itself left, right, and centre. But I think the reputability and the credibility of some of these boxing sanctioning bodies is poor anyway.
Nobody can knock him for this. This is now business. This is business. For Jake Paul, absolutely crazy. Jake Paul is a domestic level professional fighter here in the
Stephen A. Smith blasts the announcement, saying Jake Paul has never approached boxing with the seriousness the sport deserves. According to him, Jake's entire career has been built on exhibitions, hand-picked opponents, and fighters who were long past their competitive prime. Smith argues this pattern is disrespectful to boxing, and that putting Jake Paul in a matchup with Anthony Joshua is proof of how badly the sport is being treated. In his view, this fight isn't about merit, it's about money, spectacle, and headlines. Simon Jordan expresses deep concern about the Anthony Joshua versus Jake Paul matchup, saying it exposes the biggest flaws in modern boxing. He argues that business interests now dominate the sport, pushing genuine competition aside in favor of social media hype, ticket sales, and viral.
Can't continue to get away with stepping into the ring against strikers for the UFC, basketball players, unknown boxers.
Marketing, Jordan warns that when boxing becomes a spectacle instead of a skilled contest, it risks losing the respect it built over generations. To him, using a global superstar like Joshua as a tool to elevate someone who hasn't faced serious opponents undermines the sport's credibility. He stresses that this trend, prioritizing profit over athletic challenge, is dangerous. It misleads younger fighters, distorts public perception, and sets a precedent where fame outweighs talent. Jordan insists the matchup is
boxing. It's a money play, nothing wrong. I don't begrudge Anthony Joshua getting 50 million quid for an easy night's work. That's fantastic returns. Most people would take it. From the boxing world, Jake Paul is now a professional fighter. Whether we categorise him as a YouTuber or not, he's licensed to fight, which means that the governing body should be suggesting that this is not a fight that possibly they should be looking to sanction.
Yeah.
But they will, because the sanctioning fees will be enormous. Anthony Joshua will not lose his legacy like some people are suggesting, because no one will remember it in 2 or 3 years' time. If he embarrasses himself in there, they'll remember it. If he goes in and knocks him out in 30 seconds flat, or turns it into a little bit more of a sort of Jake LaMotta Raging Bull, holding him up for a few rounds and then knocking him out, then people will forgive it. He'll get a big bag of money, which most people in the world would take, and move on. And then we'll see if he fights anybody meaningful in the year. I mean, it is like sport has become. And what I got my head around on Saturday night was the entertainment value of Conor Benn and Chris Eubank. The fighting of itself, I could be all pious about it, but the entertainment industry is so prevalent in sport now. This is entertainment. This is going to have hundreds of millions of people watching it. Of course. And Anthony Joshua gets paid, and Jake Paul hopefully gets flattened.
Simon, I know the money's there, but does ultimately boxing get damaged?
Well, I think so. But I think boxing damages itself left, right, and centre. But I think the reputability and the credibility of some of these boxing sanctioning bodies is poor anyway. But I think it does get damaged.
Even if it's an exhibition fight, which it might well be.
Well, then what's the jeopardy in that? If it's an exhibition fight, which it shouldn't be, if it's a proper fight, then Jake's
less about sport and more about commercial gain, diminishing the accomplishments of athletes who truly dedicated their lives to boxing. Tony Jeffries takes a more balanced view, reminding fans that anything can happen in boxing. He points out that training, preparation, and mindset can sometimes narrow the gap between a veteran and a newcomer. Jeffries notes that Jake Paul is younger than Joshua, which could offer advantages in stamina and recovery. But he admits Jake is nowhere near Joshua's technical skill level yet. Still, he credits Jake for dramatic
desire to be in the history books, to be a 3-time heavyweight champion of the world. To me, it shows me his desire. Pick up 50 million along the way. Nobody can knock him for this. This is now business. This is business. For Jake Paul, absolutely crazy. Jake Paul is a domestic level professional fighter here in the UK. Would he win a British title? No, I don't think so. So now they're putting this domestic level fight in with a former heavyweight 2-time champion of the world. The weight is 245. So I think last time Anthony Joshua weighed around that, it was when he boxed Usyk. That means he's got to be fight fit on point, because his last fight he was 18 stone. I think it was 254 against Danny Dubois. So now he's basically saying you've got to get yourself in position, get yourself fit, and get yourself ready for fight. It's not tiddlywinks. This is a fight. It's not a push and a pull. You know, so as long as it's not a push and a pull, and don't put me down and don't touch me in the build up to this fight. You know, I remember when McGregor and Mayweather, they had this little side deal, don't touch me in the build up to this. If this is a real, legitimate fight, Jake Paul is absolutely crazy. If not crazy, he's super brave. And it'll be interesting to see.
Well, what do you think? Yeah, because you said that before when we spoke about it being a proper fight or not. And Eddie Hearn and Paul's promoter, Nakisa Badarin, have both said in the last couple of days it will be a proper fight. And now you've heard the details, 8 rounds, 3 minutes around, 10-ounce gloves. Do you believe it when they say that? It's going to be a proper fight?
I do believe it because AJ's involved, and I think AJ'd struggle to he's going to take enough flack over this, but again, it's money talk. So I think AJ will struggle because it's an all-win situation. If he goes in there, Jake Paul lasts the distance. What do you tell you about AJ? Apart from he's just earned an extra 15 million quid. If he goes there and struggles with Jake Paul, then what do you say about AJ? Your heydays are well and truly over. If he goes in there and knocks him out, then I'll say that's to be expected. So the glory, there's probably not much glory in it, apart from the haters of Jake Paul to say, right, I've got rid of this kid. I think it's very brave of Jake Paul.
Improvements. His work ethic, dedication to learning, and discipline have pushed him further than critics expected. Jeffries says the gap between them may not be as massive as some believe, and with the right strategy, boxing's unpredictable nature always leaves room for surprises. Chael Sonnen. Sonnen says Jake Paul's critics are finally about to see what he looks like against a real legitimate professional boxer. He believes this fight will expose whether Paul's previous success was built on carefully chosen opponents or if he truly belongs at a competitive level. Sonnen frames this matchup as a reality check for the entire boxing world.
Courage that it takes for Jake Paul to do this, as well as for Joshua. You know, this isn't Joshua's first time doing a spoof fight. He fought Francis. That was a spoof fight. Francis had never won boxing before, but we understood he has fought before. It was one of those things where when you got through it, like coming into the front trained plenty hard for it. But coming out the back, he probably realized I didn't need to train for that at all. That was fun. That was a good time. I got to hear him call my names. I got to go out there. I got to be light on my feet. I got to lay on these combinations and then cut an interview and pump my hands over my shoulders like I accomplished something. What dreams are made of. And so Joshua did one of those fights. It was with Francis, and this is a completely different kind of that type of fight, but it's still that fight nonetheless. Jake Paul has abilities to win this fight. A lot of them involved moral victories. A lot of them involved getting out of the first round. And a lot of them would involve getting out of the first 2 rounds and haven't been knocked down yet. One would be getting out of the 3rd round. You've only been on the canvas once and you got up to your feet, you shook it off, and you're ready to keep going. Like, these things are all victories, but the fight that it's going to happen, I think it's a big deal for Jake Paul. I think it's a big deal for everybody involved. I think it's a big deal that Francis looks at that fight and realizes, oh, these things make sense. These things that make dollars, they make sense. That's his business. This was his opportunity that he missed out on. And now Joshua's going to have a lot of fun. And overall, I see the fight being one-sided. And people keep saying, well, slow down. Wait till you hear what all of the rules under exhibition clause mean. As long as
Analysts, fighters, and fans will all be watching closely to see if Jake Paul's skills are genuine or just a product of marketing. He adds that this fight is more than just a test for Jake, it's a test for crossover boxing as a whole. Facing a world-class heavyweight like Joshua will force Paul into a level of scrutiny that can't be manipulated. Sonnen says the outcome will help reinforce standards in the sport and separate real ability from manufactured hype. Dan Rafael focuses on Jake Paul's progress, noting that since the Tommy Fury fight, Paul has shown real improvement in technique, stamina, and tactical understanding. However, Rafael makes it clear that despite these advances, Paul is still far below Anthony Joshua's elite level. The gap between a developing fighter and a seasoned heavyweight champion is enormous, something fans should keep in mind. He explains that this matchup will
been, even when he was still an active fighter, hadn't been at his best over the last decade of his career. So they were guys with big names, but not threats. And the other fighters that he's faced have been a collection of either non-combat athletes, MMA fighters who've decided to come into boxing or had very limited experience in boxing. And then, a couple of guys in boxing that didn't have a lot of experience who were boxers but had been off, for a long time. A couple of guys you never heard of before he fought those guys, and those guys you'll never hear of again. Of course, the fight against Tommy Fury, which I know he lost, but it was like a split decision, as my recollection says, and it was awfully close. And for my perspective is, whatever you think about it, Jake Paul certainly has gotten better since he fought Tommy Fury. He's certainly gotten better over the last number of fights. Now, is he at an elite, world-class level? Probably not yet. He may never get to that level, but so you got to give him props. He's taken on a guy that I spend part of my morning talking to different boxing matchmakers, people I've known for decades in this business, who have vast experience of building.
At championship level, Rafael emphasizes that boxing isn't just athleticism, it's strategy, composure, and the ability to adjust under stress. These are qualities Joshua has mastered over years, and ones Paul has only recently begun to develop. OUTRON. That's it for today's video. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned for more updates. Until next time,